I'm Adora. I was actually born in Onitsha and went to the States around 2000, where I grew up in Chicago. And that's where I started to channel my music abilities. When it comes to men, I'm just very flirty and fun, and I'm like, you have to show me what you got. Like, I'm not gonna do the work, so. So, you know, to me, it's like, I like this guy. That's what the story is about. I like him, but you have to enter my boats and show me what you got before I give you anything in return.
But like Nigerian men, I feel like I don't know if it's underreported or overreported, but I feel like it does happen. You said over.
It's over the stats. Honestly,
we don't have the stats.
But so why are we making these big?
Because you have words here. Oh, this happened in New Jersey. This happened in Texas. This happened in Maryland. Like, yo, I mean, people. I don't know how to describe it. We may not have a consensus or like statistics, but it's enough that it's a growing issue. People post their stories on social media too.
I mean, yeah, like, what do you mean? The uncles are talking to the young girls, yes, and they have wives. And the thing is, and the same thing, yes, the younger women are talking to these married men, but it is because false paternity is a growing problem in Nigeria. Why is reported false paternity on the rise? Honestly, I think it's on the rise because, you know, men have such a high standard for women and they don't keep the same energy for themselves. I feel like we have one role in their eyes, and that's to provide the next heir to their family or to keep their last name going. And there's so much pressure on us in a patriarchal society that Nigeria is, that it's basically our responsibility to figure it out, whether they're the father or not. And let's keep it a brick. A lot of the men, they are not able to have children, and they blame the women. And that's not our problem. It's something that they blame us for, and, you know, we have to figure it out. And so sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. And that's why there are a lot of, you know, children who don't have the same parents, because somebody's not taking accountability at the end of the day, and it's not the woman. That's all I have to say on the matter. But I think that it's hard to come clean about such things happening within our community, because women are reliant on a lot of men in society because we're not respected there. We can't have our own businesses or, you know, have higher positions in companies and such. So we have to give children to our spouses and such so that we can live a decent life, if at all. And so false paternity is very common. And a lot of the times men also have children outside of their marriages, and they're fathering kids that aren't theirs, you know, in the marriage either. So I think it really is a man's problem. We live in a man's world, so if false paternity is an issue, it started with man. And that's all I have to say about that.
False paternity is a growing problem in Nigeria. Why is reported false paternity on the rise? It's actually a great question. I mean, it's pretty simple, you know. Women are toxic. Women like to put up a certain facade in Nigeria that, you know, there's always the men that are the issue, you know. Men are the cheaters. The men are the ones who don't take care of their families. The men are the ones who have to work late, you know. Whole time though, they're creeping in another man's bed. Have a kid, and then when you have the kid, you act like it's your husband's kid. I think that's mean. I think that's wicked. But hey, you know, it's honestly a cut and dry thing. Why is it being reported more? Because of various situations, you know. Kids grow up to be curious, like, oh my gosh, I don't look like my parents. You know, what's going on? They take these DNA tests, you know, and they figure out that, oh my gosh, my dad ain't my dad. hey mom, why ain't my dad my dad? And then she has to break the news, like, yeah, you know, I was succumbing to the pressure of my family and your father's family of having a child, and unfortunately, I just had to do this, or this person was there for me when your dad was out there working, trying to provide for the family and keep the lights on in the house. So honestly, it's pretty simple, man. Why is reported false paternity on the rise? It's on the rise because now we are more educated and we're shining the light on things that need to be shined on. And this is a really, really good example. This is a great example. In Nigeria, men are always the blame and the butt of every single joke. But guess what? Ha ha, in your face now, huh? Yeah. So this is why it is this, you know? I don't really know what else y'all want me to say here.
False paternity is a growing problem in Nigeria. Why is reported false paternity on the rise? Honestly, I mean, this question is hard because I'm technically biased as a woman, but if I was trying to just be not so biased, my answer would be because women don't really have much of a choice. A lot of marriages, and we can go all the way back to just child marriages, which should still be illegal all over the world, but it's not. But starting from there, we are dealing with children who are being forced into marriages till today in certain parts of Nigeria, and without a choice. So they enter situations where they don't get to choose. And then their life just goes on with lack of choices, and everything after that I feel as though is because of the lack of choice. But then there are situations where you're not forced into marriage, but it's still a choice because we are dealing with poverty, many other issues in Nigeria, infrastructure issues, and just so many different things that I don't really know if I have the time to list. But outside of that, as a woman, you're also dealing with being, with just lacking power in an environment that doesn't really support you having a voice. So if you are now stuck in a situation where you have to try to find a way out of, I want to say, an environment that's not conducive to your growth or just well-being, what are your options? No, if I want to connect it to just the false paternity aspect of it, it's, and I know it's going to sound like I'm making excuses for women who are in that situation, because I don't support false paternity at all. I'm just going to put that out there. If you are someone who has a child for someone who is not the father to those kids, I would suggest you actually tell them. But I know that this defeats the whole purpose, because if you do tell them, you end up in much worse situations in Nigeria specifically. In the United States, you might be able to, go to the court of law and figure something out, but you could actually get killed in Nigeria for admitting something like that. You and your children could get kicked out. You could lose support. Your children could, lose their family, their home. So there's a lot that goes into it. But if you're in a situation where you don't have a choice, you're trying to get out of poverty, you get married, you pick somebody you might not be in love with, or somebody who might have more money, or somebody who your family has betrothed you to for whatever reason, and then you do get married, then that's already your choices taken away. Then you now have to stick with that, because now you have to support your kids. And if you end up in a situation where you get married with someone else or get with somebody else while you're married without being able to choose just where your life goes after that, I feel as though I can't really necessarily blame the woman, which is why I said I'm biased already, because as a woman, we don't have a lot of choices, and in a world where we're starting to have choices, it comes with consequences. And just in Nigeria, consequences come more than choices, especially for women. So I know I'm biased on this topic, but I think it all comes down to choice and just not having any.
False paternity is a growing problem in Nigeria. Why is reported false paternity on the rise? Well, I think a big reason why false paternity is on the rise in Nigeria is because you have a lot of people migrating outside of Nigeria, and certain countries require DNA tests or proven paternity of the family that's migrating. There are some of these, cases on the internet, on social media going on where, people are confessing or like sharing with the world how they're not the biological children of their parents, or their dad is not their dad, stuff like that, families being torn apart. It's sad, but it is a reality. I don't think false paternity is a good thing. I understand why it happens, but it's important for people to know that it's hopefully something that should be avoided if possible. If you love somebody, just go and marry that person that you love. Don't go and marry somebody and then purposely have kids for somebody else and then put kids on the guy. Nigerian men are gonna like it, so it's not a good thing. At the same time, you do have situations where nurses have reportedly like switched babies due to the lack of technology or just record keeping in certain hospitals in Nigeria. There are certain instances where there's like a freak of nature where the dad is the dad, but it's not the dad. So it just depends on, each situation. But I think in most cases, there might be some infidelity there. I think in most cases, there is a lie there. I think in most cases, the wife stepped out, or the mother of the child, the mother of the family, or the situation most likely stepped out. And if that does happen, easier said than done, but let them know. It's gonna avoid a lot of stress, a lot of pain, especially the stories that are being reported on social media. Families are being torn apart. So I'm hoping that it's something we as a people can kind of, bring it down on. But Nigerians love to get busy. So it probably won't stop, but hopefully it does.
False paternity is a growing problem in Nigeria. Why is reported false paternity on the rise?
So when I was looking at false paternity in Nigeria and information on it, whenever people make claims that are very strong, I try my best to see if there are any stats behind those claims, because stats are very, research is very important. So when I was looking for research, all I could find were news articles saying, oh, the DNA experts in Lagos, they said that it's 30%. And it's like, okay, where's the study for it? Where are the actual facts, right? And I couldn't find any actual stats, hard facts for this, science for this. And the reason why I'm saying that is, I think that while yes, paternity fraud or false paternity, whatever you want to call it, it's an issue globally. To make a claim that 30% of Nigerian men, or whatever the percentage that people are throwing out there now, are not the father of their kids, I'm gonna be really frank, I feel like that number is kind of just being pulled out of nowhere. And if anything, in my opinion, I feel like this is more so an agenda being pushed rather than an actual issue, because people are kind of just pushing out this narrative that, oh, Nigerian women aren't faithful, they're the world's biggest cheaters, there are all these other things that people like to say about wonderful Nigerian women like myself. So the answer to that question is, I don't think it's as big as an issue as people are saying that it is. And I think that people are just trying to push something that, at least in my opinion, isn't actually real per se. And yeah, that's it.
False paternity is a growing problem in Nigeria. Why is reported false paternity on the rise?
We know why.
What do you mean? Why? How do
We
what do we
know.
What do we know?
There's a lot of stuff going on that shouldn't be going on.
Like what?
Like false paternity.
Okay, yeah. So obviously, let's dive in. Let's dive in.
So, if I'm having a child with my wife, that child should be mine.
Okay. Yes.
And if it's not yours,
I'm gone.
no. If it's not yours, you should have been told, and then you make your decision of whether that's where it starts, and then you extend to from that conversation to the hospital infrastructure.
Okay, but you were talking about Nigeria, where like nothing is as it seems, and everybody's lying, greedy, or like hungry.
No, I agree.
You're in this country. You can be like, oh yeah, let's talk about it. Let's go to I like
More
get tested. I mean that's what
Yeah.
that's more entertaining. But like you can do many different things and not really be as chastised for it or killed. But in Nigeria, you say that out loud, and you could literally actually be killed. Your kids could also be killed. They could also lose support. There's so many things that can happen that, like a domino effect, that your entire world could be uprooted outside of just, oh, you're not the dad.
But it starts with personal integrity.
Right.
Yeah, but
And literally that's what it starts.
they don't have integrity. Like, why would a man even be upset that the child is not theirs when they have 20 girlfriends? They're not coming home to their wife anyway.
I mean,
But that's not.
but he ain't out here with kids.
Are you sure about that?
He ain't out here with kids.
There's so many men that have children that are outside of their marriage because they have these girlfriends, these side pieces, and they're giving some of the money that's supposed to go to their household to the girlfriends to take care of the child that's not.
But how you not sure the man is? How you sure that the man isn't taking care of his household?
Why would
And
he
just
need to take care of two
indulging in
households?
extracurricular
Focus on
activities.
one. That's y'all problem. Yeah.
Please don't group me into the
The dating scene is filled with married men. Filled.
You said the what?
The dating scene.
But there's a market for them though.
There is, and I will say,
Is it? I don't.
hold on, time out real quick. All right, so I'm married, right? Ever since I started wearing my ring, I've been hit on,
Talk about it.
DM slid in.
Talk about it.
I've had coworkers approach me in a very sexual
I have a
manner
question.
than when I was single.
I have a question.
Go
Were
ahead.
some of those women Nigerian?
A couple.
You see?
Alright, I'm just saying.
But I say all that
There's a
to say,
market.
I say all that to say, I agree 100% with you. There is a very strong market for women wanting married men.
And then they have children by
But
it.
why
But-
is that?
Yeah.
So I think I can't give a direct answer, but I think two things when I think about the situation. I think number one, sometimes you want what you can't have, and I think number two, sometimes you want something that has no strings attached, where you can just be like, all right, well, we're going out on a date or we're going to go fuck, and we know that we're going our separate ways. There's no strong commitment holding you together. So I think those.
But when you say that, there's so many consenting men that are married that are doing these things. So is it really that there's a market for it, or are you guys opening yourselves
And
to
seeking it.
infidelity?
And we
It's
don't
both ways.
pursue
It's
it.
both- it works both
Because this
ways.
is the thing.
It works
This is
both
the
ways.
thing. Wait, hold on. This is the thing, right? In Nigerian culture in general, in Nigeria, in the UK, here even, infidelity for men is so like normalized
Yes.
that it's like it's expected for y'all to cheat.
They feel like it's an entitlement that they feel like they are.
Right.
I don't think entitlement. I think
So
more
it's
of like
like-
way of life.
What? No.
Yeah.
And if we're
For the older generation of
But if
Nigerians.
we're circling back to the false paternity, right? So we're saying like the infidelity and such. So a lot of women in Nigeria are very complacent to the infidelity, right? And so having the child is the only thing that solidifies yourself to stay in that household. And like I said, a lot of men are not able to provide the child that they want. And so in order for the woman to stay in this house, knowing that he's out there doing whatever, she has to provide or produce a child. So she goes out of her way to go and, bam, bam, do, and get the child for the household so she can solidify her position there as a wife. Even though they're not technically, acting like husband and wife, but at least she knows that I gave you a child, so you must, do your duty in that regard.
I
It's always
can-
the woman's fault.
I can
They always blame.
I can agree with what you said in Nigeria in the sense of having to get a child because I mean, we've watched the movies and we probably know people who are in those situations where it's just like, okay, you can't produce a child, get out, somebody else produce a child for me. And also I can agree in the sense of Nigerians in Nigeria are extremely petty in the sense of like, all right, like if you can't meet all of these criteria, like there's no funding for you, there's no money for you, like they're just literally gonna hang you out to dry. So I can agree in those sense. And then kind of circling back to what you said earlier, as far as infidelity and it being kind of like normalized, I see exactly where you're coming from, because I have seen like, I personally haven't seen the younger Nigerian folks, but I have seen like the older Nigerian men, where you have your wife, you taking care of your like family at home, but like you still out here, you still out here in these streets, you know, doing what you got to do.
Yeah,
So So I was, based off of what I've seen, I would say probably like 45 and up.
No.
Again, that's why I said. That's why I said from what I have seen.
I'm saying as a woman, we experience it more, and we know that age. It's younger, so we are dealing with younger men who are feeling also entitled, maybe because they learned it from their older.
That's what they're seeing.
Exactly.
That's what they're seeing.
Like their uncles that are talking to them, hey, before you get married.
When you get married, they're talking to the young girls, right?
What do you mean?
Yeah, the uncles are talking to the young girls, yes, and they have wives. And the thing is, and the same thing, yes, the younger women are talking to these married men, but it is because, right, we are looking at situations and we're looking at our futures in the sense where it's like, we already know what we're gonna come into. Yeah. Like, let me live a comfortable life. Because if we're talking about in Nigeria, it's not very likely to live a very comfortable life there. So you have to, you know, struggle, and you have to do what you have to do to, you know, provide for yourself, live a certain lifestyle, be able to afford certain things. So you have to dip into the pockets of the married men.
But there's a consequence to that, though. And
I'm
I
sure
think
the
that
women know what the consequences, but it's worse for the married men because you now have a vow to your wife. I don't have a vow to your wife. You know what I mean? Like, you also have kids probably with your wife. I don't, you know, like it's a tough spot to be in. But
what I think is going on is that when it comes out, right, God forbid, right, someone somewhere, the child is not his life is finished. Like, people have like,
because the woman
yes,
I told you the woman is blamed for everything.
okay, but look, like, I can't imagine that happening to me. So if it's happened to someone else, and in some cases, like social media, I read a story, none of the kids were his. And these guys put them through uni, put them to secondary, put them through primary. His life is alive, right?
It'll be like,
That's
damn.
No,
It's more than
embarrassing.
But when the woman is like, abomination. Like, for the men, it's embarrassing and it's
No. The reason why it's more than just embarrassing is because, keep in mind, it's not just about the financial toll that is taken on you. It's also the emotional aspect, the bonding aspect. Like, that's a huge part of it. Like, that is something that can lead a man to suicide.
You're saying all this like most Nigerian men know how to bond with their kids.
They do.
Yeah, but they don't.
Well, I will say from the examples that were given to me and the people that I see in my day-to-day life, I see a great bond between a Nigerian father and a Nigerian child.
A Nigerian father and a Nigerian son.
I would say child, both male and female.
No.
From what I have seen.
Most women do not have a good relationship
becoming
with their
a
fathers.
more prominent thing to get involved.
Yeah.
But I don't think, like, I think I have a very great relationship, but a lot of my friends, they don't. But
like,
versus the younger people, they do have a really great relationship.
At all.
Yeah.
A lot, and it's so much that it's extreme. Like, I maybe 2 out of 10 women I meet will say, oh, my father is awesome. And it's always like news to me. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
What's that like? You know, because it's like, my father is, a great person, I believe, but like in terms of connection, emotion, whatever, they feel as though, okay, I came to the house, I put money on the table, you guys are eating. What's the problem? That's it. Are you alive? Did you wake up today?
Well, maybe they will, but the way I always choose to correlate those experiences with Nigerian parents, because once upon a time, like, me and my mom didn't really have that best relationship. I had to understand her upbringing in order for me to be able to understand kind of like why she thinks the way that she thinks. and not giving it an excuse, but you only know you can only like disseminate as much as what you know. Like I can't really pour more than what I know into your cup. So it's just like, yeah, you want that, but maybe that's just how they were raised, and that's how they saw their friends and their siblings raise their kids. So to them, that may be right, but to us, it's like, no, we want more. We need this, we need that, and those are one of the things where you have to unlearn to relearn. Now the question is, do you as a parent want to do that part?
Now, you make a very good point, right? You said this is what they know, this is what they grew up. Let's go to the paternity. Because this is what they grew up with, this is what they know, this is the standard of which they have lived all of their lives. Us, we're looking at it now like this is crazy. Like, I think the younger generations of Nigerians, it's not as common. But the older generation, and why a lot of these people are coming out with these, paternity numbers and whatnot, is because this is the only lifestyle they know. This is the only way they have known to survive. They had no other option but to do these things, and that's why that number is so high. I mean, at the end of the day, we're looking at these women who, are bringing another child into the household, right? But if we start doing numbers and statistics of how many married men have a child outside of their home, that number is going to be astronomically high, above the woman that's bringing another child into your house. Because a lot of the times, how many children are they really going to be bringing outside of the home? Maybe it's one or two.
A pregnant woman in a married home is more obvious than a man getting other women pregnant outside of the home.
Yeah, like it's easier to break down the timeline.
I'm just saying, you will know how many kids your wife is having in the home because you're seeing her pregnant. But if you can go outside and impregnate the entire village and come back,
right? You can't know. Yeah,
15?
You can't know.
Huh? 15 what?
You see Nick Cannon? How many children he has? He has a whole cult of children.
Yeah,
He's not a business.
But that's not go in and impregnate and plant seeds.
Yes. Especially, let's say that in the household you're not even having sex. Then your wife is coming out pregnant. That's very, very easy to decipher. Exactly. See how quick you have to. But meanwhile, our mothers and such are telling us to stay in the marriage, even if there's infidelity. Stay, work it out, because that's all they know.
Yeah.
Because they live with infidelity, so they say work it out. The only reason you should leave is if he beats you. That's the only thing that
I was about to say, someone even say that. They're like, it's okay. It's not just one or two slaps.
See yourself.
But going back to what you said, when it comes to men finding out that, my song is in my song. And you said it's an emotional thing, it's a financial thing. So even with all of that, even with the bonding, even with all the financial loss, is there really a loss? Like, is there really a change in the relationship between the father and the child or children when he finds that out? Because at the end of the day, you raise them as their dad, right? And to you, they are your children, whether or not they're actually your actual biological children. So it's like, what's the issue?
The issue is, as a man, I can only speak for as a man. As a man, our seed is important. It's important that's
Say it again.
As a man, it's important that it's my seed that's coming from my wife.
What if your seed is not working?
It's working. It's working.
Why is it so important for it to be your seed? Why, like, what if you actually cannot conceive children? Hypothetically speaking,
but you still want to.
You cannot impregnate someone. God forbid.
Someone else.
So if your partner, spouse, girlfriend, whoever you want to call it, wife, okay, your wife got pregnant and you guys wanted a child, what's the problem?
Because it's important for, like I said earlier, men, it's like, it's the same way you want your genetics to live on. So after me, I want my seed to live on. Someone else's seed can live on. That's good for them, but I also want mine to live on too. I don't want someone else to take that from me.
So if yours doesn't live on when you die,
yeah.
Let me present another thing. So let's say you cannot
produce a child.
Someone else, okay?
And she said, the individual in question cannot produce a child.
Okay.
And the wife is like, you know, it would be embarrassing. One, because nobody's gonna blame the man. It would be embarrassing on my part, where people start asking me, where's the child, this, that, and the third. What can we do? And she presents, can we use somebody else? Would the person in question be open to that versus being sneaky and, you know, just producing a child?
Don't be sneaky.
But would you be okay with that? Because let's be honest, I don't think they would be okay with it.
Most of them aren't.
I think individual A, hold on, back it up a little bit. I think the important conversation that you're drawing out here is, and kind of similar to behind the scenes when we're talking about like blood types and stuff like that. I think it's important to have those conversations up front. And I think it's also important to get all of those tests up front. So like, okay, have the sperm test to see if it's something that can produce or not. Have the let's lay it all out in the open now and give each other the option of, okay, do we want to proceed? If we want to proceed, if we want to have a child, what are our options? Because honestly, even if your sperm can't like generate a child or whatever, there's still other forms out here. There's adoption. There's like other things that you can.
You don't have to step out.
You don't have to step out.
That's not a
And that's the solution right there.
But in Nigeria, let's remember.
Yeah,
Even in Nigeria.
The mountains in Nigeria are imbeciles. I'm sorry, but they're imbeciles. Like they don't have the knowledge. They don't have the experience. They don't have the technology.
No. I disagree. The reason why I disagree is there is a foundation in Nigeria, Ibidun Igodalo Foundation. God rest her soul. Her foundation is responsible for like things surrounding like pregnancy and childbirth and stuff like that. So the education before, yes, was not as open, but now there is much more emphasis placed on education around. I know, but I'm sure there's more. But what I'm saying is like it starts somewhere, right?
Yeah.
It starts with one organization, and then other organizations can, you know what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, the most important thing is, in order to avoid the false paternity, let's do these tests up front. Let's have these conversations up front, because when we start to have all these very uncomfortable conversations, number one, we grow as a couple, and then number two, there is no blurred lines, and number three, there is no cheating.
I think it's very easy to say that when you're not living in Nigeria. Nigeria is such a conservative country. You don't even talk about sex with your partner. You don't even talk about what you like in the bedroom with your partner.
But I think it's different now.
I don't think it is.
I definitely think it's different. With the younger folks?
No.
I definitely think it's different. Maybe with the older, like our parents' age, yes. But with the younger folks, I think it's
I was
different.
there just last month. I was there in December.
Why did you bring my clothes from my dealer?
I'm just saying, I feel it's still a very conservative, like, listen, you can't even go into the pharmacy to get condoms without side-eyeing everything like that.
Kids born?
You can't go, even if you want to go get Plan B in the pharmacy, they'll start questioning you.
Why are you Plan B from America to Nigeria? They'll just be giving you fake, what's that type of pill called?
Exactly. In Nigeria.
They'll just be giving you placebo.
They will probably give you a fake one.
I wouldn't trust it.
I've seen it happen. Because they're just like, why are you trying to get that child? You know? So I don't feel like there's these foundations, there are little steps, but overall the conservativeness in Nigeria overpowers all of that. And there's no room to have those conversations. Even in this day and age, couples are not talking about things that they need to be talking about as couples. Even in this US, we're saying, oh, Nigeria, you should have all these tests. People in the US don't have all these tests.
It's not a
People don't do that
when you
stuff.
have a kid.
So how will Nigeria now be the one to do it? When
And also
us
cost.
here
Let's talk about cost in Nigeria.
Because
One of the
most
articles
popular
mentioned the cost
restricted
of
people.
paternity tests is too
Yeah.
much for the average family to afford because of poverty. So let's now try to convince Nigeria that we're going to give people money to even eat. Even you're not saying let's focus on paternity tests.
Yeah, right.
What's the priority?
Right.
Like let's get people out of poverty first before we start talking about
Might try to
whose kid is
exploit
whose.
that by like trying to charge people.
Exactly. It's not impossible. It's not
Giving
you.
them
How are you possible?
Right.
Not
Right on that.
stress. So
Yeah.
yeah,
You're right.
they'll be like, you know what? The woman will not go behind and say, please, can you just
extra money. Okay, you are the father.
Yes.
I do want to say something. I do feel as if false paternity, even abroad, it does happen, unfortunately, right? But a lot of men who it's happening to, they just swallowed it. Because
We have a
the
whole
pain.
show about this.
Oh, bro.
You are the father.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, but I mean, like, Nigerian.
That's big.
That's But like Nigerian men, I feel like if I don't know if it's underreported or overreported, but I feel like it does happen. You said over.
It's over the stats. Honestly,
We don't have the stats.
But
But
why are we making these big?
because you have words here. Oh, this happened in New Jersey. This happened in Texas. This happened in Maryland. Like, yo, I mean, people. I don't know how to describe it. We may not have a consensus or like statistics, but it's enough that it's a growing issue. People post their stories on social media too.
I mean, yeah,
that's
like
true, that's true.
I'm not trying to say that
Yeah, it doesn't happen,
isn't a
yeah.
thing.
Mhm.
We have the Maury show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
So obviously it's an issue, but the way that people are trying to, especially in Nigeria, the way that people are trying to make it seem like, oh, it's this big problem. Oh, everyone, go get tested. Go get your kids tested. It's like,
Like, get the COVID vaccine first.
Like, and let's be real. Let's say if the child that is not your child becomes successful,
then when you gonna say,
you'll close your mouth. You'll close your mouth
Can
and
I-
be shouting praises on the child.
Can I-
Exactly. So
That-
if the child is successful, you won't say thing.
You won't
But
say
if
thing.
it's looking like one
If
lazy
you're also
child,
poor,
you'll say,
I think
that's how I know it's not my
all
blood.
comes down to
Child is lazy.
You know,
That's
like,
why-
sponsor and keep sponsoring something that's not theirs. If you were sponsoring them already, you're not thinking about the loss of that, and then you want to keep sponsoring them. Let's say
Because he
one
may
hour-
tell you, you're not my dad.
Okay,
So
wait,
I doubt it.
let's say the
I
child
doubt
doesn't
it.
know. The child probably doesn't know.
I
They probably
doubt
don't
it.
child.
Yeah.
oh,
But at like, let's say 5 years old, not even 18 or 35.
Okay.
At 5 years old, most people will think, I will take care of this child. Bang. Because you can barely afford to survive. Now you want me to come and give you money to a child that I know is not mine? It's always finances. It always comes down to money.
Yeah.
Like if we're being honest.
Okay.
You know, adoption is a thing, but adoption is almost like a privilege.
You
If
know,
someone's gonna adopt, you can afford a
the
child.
adoption agencies
Exactly.
in Nigeria, they're overflowed.
Because people can't afford
And
their own
people don't
children.
want to adopt children because it's a shame in Nigeria to adopt. These kids are not getting adopted in
Can't your own
Nigeria.
child? Can't your own child?
yeah.
So I think
It's one of the first before you can.
I think it boils down to us. I mean, just not just us who are physically here, but us as Nigerians across the diaspora or in Nigeria. We have to be able to start to break some of these stigmas. I think that's what it boils down to. Once we're able to start to break down some of these stigmas, I think just like how corruption started one day and it became this big thing, you start breaking the stigmas now here, and then one day it may not be in our own lifetime or our kids' lifetime, but at some point it will become like, okay, you adopt, fine. Oh, I can't. Individual A can't conceive children. Yeah, you shoot in blanks. So that's what I'm saying. But I think that's what I'm saying. But like, it starts
They're
from
making
us.
movies about it on Netflix now.
Yeah, I think in our day and age, it's gonna be less common. I think the standards of what relationships are have been slowly changing in Nigeria. I think monogamy is being taken more seriously, and women are starting to leave because they're starting to really get education, really try to, live their own lives instead of depending on a man nowadays. So I think that it is definitely on the rise to changing that habit. But it's something that's prevalent not only in Nigeria but everywhere.
Yeah.
Like it's something that
But
in the
Nigeria's
US
not worse.
is very, very common.
Yeah.
False paternity here in the US is overwhelming. Like it makes no sense.
Every day I feel like I see something on social media.
Yeah,
Somebody's
it's
like,
like fathers, people are making TikTok saying, "Let me roll the dice." Which
Yeah.
one is the dad? You know what I'm saying? Like,
I'm not gonna hold you. I think one time I saw it was like a social media meme where the lady came out and was like, she brought like 10 different men. She was like, I don't know which one of y'all the father, but I know one of y'all. We gonna get to the bottom of this. I'm like, 10.
but at least
Let
you
me
brought
fuck.
all of them to figure out who should be responsible. Like,
For the child support?
listen, maybe they'll work it out.
You know what I mean?
All right.
But,
I'm gonna wrap it up.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay. So we're good then, I think. All right.
that's how it
perfect.
is.
Yeah.